My question has to deal with love and how we relate to others. And in my young existence so far, I'm just wondering for the future, is there like a recipe for, I've heard you talk about, letting everyone off the hook and not focusing on when you love someone with attachments or with expectations. And does real love, is it unconditional and it doesn't have attachments? And also, I've seen a lot of suffering, like with marriages with people older than me, and is it because it seems so binding and not really real giving the person freedom that they need to be who they are? And what does real love consist of? Because I really would like to know for my path and my journey, and what is the recipe so we don't have so much suffering around it, and so much pain, and so much, expecting of the other person and the other being. And I think just from what I've noticed, in marriages, some people think of it as institutionalized, and it's been, a concept of far back in our history, and then there's religion that takes a part in it. And so I guess I'm just looking for a recipe that would be good to work for in the future in dealing with people and in relationships, or not just in love relationships, but with people, and so we don't feel that pain or suffering, or we can love freely and let that person be who they need to be on their journey and their path, and it is what it is.
Well, it sounds to us like you've got it figured out. We think the perfect recipe or the perfect marriage or relationship vows must certainly be, I like you pretty good, let's see how it goes. Because you've touched on several things here. There were several things that sort of lit up around the room as you were speaking here. And the most significant thing that we want to address here is that love, the feeling of love, when you are in a moment where you are loving, offering love, you are in perfect vibrational alignment with that which is your source. And anything less than that is less than that. So when you talk about loving someone so much it's painful, our friend before is talking about a dream that he is so in love with. And when he holds the vision of this dream in its pureness, it makes his heart soar. But when he thinks of the absence of it, it's a painful thing. So we want to say to you that the word love, the emotion of love, is an indicator about alignment. And you can apply it, as you said, to so many different things. It can be applied to your relationship with your significant other. It can be applied to almost any subject. As I'm focused upon this subject or this person, we're ringing a little loud. As I focus upon this person or this subject, no matter what the subject is my approach to it allowing my full connection with my source energy, or is my approach to it somehow not? Now, you said something else that is very important. We're going to tie this all together and then we'll take off from where you are. And that is that the emotional scale that we've been talking about all morning is, on the end of it, that feels like love, is also your personal, in the moment, perception of freedom and empowerment. And we use the word perception carefully, because everyone is free. You're so free you can choose bondage. No one else can vibrate for you. But how you perceive yourself to be, the amount of power that you perceive in the moment, has to do with how much power you're connected to. And that degree of love that you are feeling is absolutely tied with that feeling of alignment with who you really are. And of course, on the other end of that, that disempowerment is there. So it's an interesting thing. You talked about the pain you see in relationships.
Or why people can't let go, of another person, or they hold on and they can't, or like you talk about, there's always abundance available, or everything's in perfect timing and the right person will come along when they need to be. So don't feel sadness perhaps if it's not in how you perceive it to be, because Source knows what you need at the right timing. So I guess why is there that wanting to cling or wanting to hold on and to...
Well, the reason that wanting to cling or hold on is so prevalent is because the person who is now clinging was not in touch with their own emotions to begin with. In other words, here's how it usually works. That is usually the ending of this kind of scenario. So I'm in my physical body and I want to feel good. And I haven't yet figured it out that I can focus myself into feeling good. I'm still, like so many people, looking at that and feeling good and looking at that and feeling bad. And so believing that if more things were like that, I'd feel better. And if fewer things were like that, I'd feel better. Still believing that I need to control circumstances. So I come together with someone, and in most relationships, especially in the beginning, because you don't know so much about me and I don't know so much about you, and we're both hoping for what we each want. So both of us are more in a place of alignment in the beginning of a relationship, because we're looking positively, expectantly at one another. And in doing so, we're finding the best in each other. And in looking for the best in each other, we are, without maybe even knowing it, aligning with Source, who always looks for the best in each other. We're aligning with that broader non-physical part of ourselves. And so we say, oh, this feels so good. When you look at me and my physical body and you love me, you're in alignment with Source in order to love. And when you shower your love all over me, it feels so good, I say to you, in my physical form. So then, as that feels good, then what happens, however, is that you have to continue to hold yourself in a place of connection and positive expectation in order to flood that well-being all over me. And if you don't, then I feel like a puppet that somebody has let go of the strings. And then I begin saying things to you, such as, you don't love me like you used to, or you don't make me feel the way you used to, when it was never your job to make me feel this way to begin with. All you were was a catalyst that caused me to connect with who I really am and how I really feel. So the clinging or hanging on that you're talking about is where I now remember that you did make me feel good, and I'm hanging on to that dream, and I'm hanging on to that vision, and the closest thing that I associate to feeling the way I always wanted to feel was that brief time when I felt that way with you. So I'm holding on to you. And what we want to say, we want you to get so consciously aware that the way you feel is about what you're focused upon, and that the way you feel is about your amount of alignment with who you are or misalignment, allowing of who you are or resisting of who you really are. And when you get that, and you further understand, as we've been talking all morning, that you can, with deliberate thought, while we acknowledge you can't do it all at once, you can do it incrementally. As you acknowledge that you can close that gap between where you are and where you want to be, or who you are and who you really are, then you're not holding other people in that impossible position of having to perform in a way so that you can feel better. When you say to someone, I need you to be different so that I can feel better, you have no power. That's the pain of relationships. It's expecting the impossible. It's giving someone else the power to do something that nobody else can do. Nobody can hold you as their object of attention completely enough to assure that you will always be in alignment. And if they did, you'd be screaming and running and trying to get away from them, because you would feel like you were suffocating, you see. So a relationship becomes magnificent when you let your primary relationship that you are seeking be with you. With yourself. When you say, nothing is more important than that I feel good. And then on a myriad of subjects, you practice bringing yourself up the vibrational scale so that you show yourself that under all conditions that you have the power to focus and feel good. We were visiting with a woman one day who said, Abraham, my son is between relationships and desperately wanting one. Can you give me some words so that I can help him find one? And will he find her soon? And we said, hopefully not. And she was shocked. Why in the world would you not want him to find someone? Because it seemed that that was what he was so heartbroken about. And we said, if he finds a relationship now, she will be just like he is. Law of attraction will bring to him a vibrational match. And she won't have any money either. She won't have any self-esteem either. She won't like herself either. And they'll just bang around together, and then they'll split up. And she said, well, that's exactly what's been happening. And we said, it's so much better if you can come into vibrational alignment with who you are, and then let law of attraction bring you someone else who has also come into vibrational alignment. And that kind of a relationship works because you're not asking the other one to do your work. Right. You're doing your work, and then you're just having the benefit of joyously dancing together. It's possible. You don't ever have to leave your relationship behind. Your relationship, just like everything else in your life, is continuing to evolve. And right here in the middle of this relationship that may feel so awful that you want to run kicking and screaming from it, you're launching rockets of desire. You're amending your desires relative to that relationship. And Source is becoming all of that. And if you, the Source part of you, is becoming all of that. And if you could find, through reaching for thoughts that feel better, in other words, finding thoughts that give you relief, if you could come into vibrational alignment with that, you could live inside of an eternally evolving relationship that would continue to be as fresh and new as you are.
It's very insightful. And I'm just wondering the idea of, or people talk about like a soulmate, or what is the idea of that, or, like even in marriage.
Well, here's an interesting thing about soulmate. What a soulmate is, they call them different things, soulmate or twin flames. And what it means from our perspective is you've met someone who is from same non-physical lineage, in the sense that they come forth with same vibrational intentions. As you come forth, you come forth in clusters, and those with whom you are interacting in the non-physical realm often join you as you come forth physically. But people make such a thing about this because if you really want to know it, everyone who is walking the planet today is your soulmate in one way or another. And in other words, when Esther and Jerry met, they both felt an energy around that. In other words, and people often describe it as a sensation of coming home. When you meet someone that is of the same non-physical essence that you are, if you are vibrationally up to speed with your Source at that time, and the other is vibrationally up to speed with Source at that time, then there is a powerful connection. But the connection that you're feeling is about your connection with who you really are. And when you are in alignment with who you really are, the universe yields to you only soulmates on a myriad of subjects.
So it's a mirror then.
When you meet someone who makes your heart sing, you can say, this may very well be my non-physical vibrational equivalent. But when you meet someone who just makes you crazy, you could very well say the same thing. We've noticed that those soulmates that you're meeting, those people that make you just want to spit nails, those people that just get under your skin in a way that you just can hardly stand them, those people often are soulmates. And what they're reflecting back to you is the lack of connection. And when you see it evidenced in them, your awareness of who you are comes to such in other words, anything that makes you powerfully aware of this vibrational relativity between who you're allowing yourself to be in this moment and who you really are is a strong indication of non-physical intentions. Often you say to each other, let's go forth and mix it up together. The best of soulmates are those who say, let's go forth and have a meaningful experience, which usually doesn't mean let's go be identical and agree with everything. It usually means let's provide some contrast for each other, and let's be catalysts that launch rockets of desires, and then let's be catalysts of coming into alignment, and then let's experience the deliciousness of our having come into alignment, and let us live happily ever after together. In other words, that is what true soulmatedness is about.
So is there only one person for you? I mean, when we talk about marriage, until death do us
you
part.
You come forth into clusters. Until death do us part, and please let it come soon. Yes.
Right. But that seems like, even like the whole marriage vows, it just seems very binding. And why? What would your idea be if
well,
even
that's what we say. Yeah. I like you pretty good. Let's see how it goes. Would be a much better marriage vow, because this until death do us part thing.
It's
in
so
words,
serious.
What that marriage vow says
binding.
is, so we'll come together. We're really not sure how we got here, but here we are. And I'm so afraid that it won't last. That I'm going to lock you into, and you're going to lock me into a promise that neither one of us are ever even going to be able to come close to keeping. And then we'll just hold it over each other's head until we exacerbate our reason for not being together. Because after all, we're going to need huge justification to break apart if we are not living happily ever after. And we say, oh, it is a very troubling situation. If we were standing in your physical shoes, we would not go down that road. We would get into alignment with who we are, and we would say, Source energy, I'm feeling pretty good. Please help me to align, find, interact with, come to know.